like you're watching the real news. It's Lisa Fischer. We're doing a Zoom call right now, and we're broadcasting to the World Wide Web about our hashtag Free Britney campaign. You may be a part of it too, maybe something that's interested you. Darren and Matthew Clanton are the producers. Whitney is down there on the bottom right, and then Caitlin will hop on in just a minute. I'm going to follow this on Facebook. If you've got any questions or comments, we should be going live from my account any minute now. There we are. If you've got any questions or comments, send them in. We'll address those. And then those of you watching on YouTube, glad to have you. We're going to upload this podcast, and it is it is also a podcast version. Great thing about audio. And we will upload that on Sunday because it's 4th of July, our independence, and we're talking about Britney's independence. Whitney, can you hear me now, girl?
I can hear you, and I'm here. Sorry, you can't see my face yet. I'm trying to figure that out.
She's trying to figure that out. Well, let me introduce Whitney Bauer. Whitney is our legal expert because as an attorney, she hasn't just let this lay by the wayside. This is something that she has put full focus in because we discuss it. I mean, we're hashtagging the Free Britney. My cousin Caroline's watching right now in her Free Britney t-shirt. And I mean, we've all kind of had fun with this conversation, but we really are serious in that how can this happen in this day and age? Caitlin is hopping on right now. Caitlin is coming to us from Southern California where the weather's perfect all the time. What up, girl?
Hi.
The great thing about Caitlin is she and I have never met in person, but we're the best virtual friends.
I don't feel like that's even like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It doesn't ever occur to me that we've never been in the same room, ever.
I know. Because Caitlin and I worked together on a project last year, had so much fun. And the minute I talked to her on the phone, she's one of the funniest people you'll ever talk to. But her smart ass ability is way up there. And she's gifted. Out of 1 to 10, she's a 10 on the smart ass scale.
So I am so glad this worked out today. I mean, that is great. That was great. What an introduction. Thank you.
Okay, she's also a podcaster, a comedian, and a true crime producer of true crime, of different media, true crime. And Whitney's hiding behind her fancy bougie console there. So we were talking about it. So Whitney, since the legal expert, define to all of us what conservatorship is, and why are we just now hearing about it? And why didn't Shia LaBeouf, why isn't he in a conservatorship? Why isn't all the crazy people? Yeah, what about Kanye?
Also, great meeting you, Whitney.
Nice to meet you. Good to meet you. A conservatorship you often hear in terms of someone that cannot make decisions for themselves and someone that is a danger to themselves. So that's really what happened when this was put into place back in 2008, is that you were seeing somebody that was, from what we saw in the news, we were seeing somebody that was out of control and allegedly was spending money like crazy. And we don't really know exactly what was going on. We just know how it was portrayed in the tabloid. So when you're seeing that from the outside in, I can remember thinking about it in 2008 and thinking that's probably what she needs. That's probably what needs to happen.
This was after the whole head shaving.
After
right?
Head shaving.
Yeah. That's when we all knew that was her final straw. Like, we just thought there was a meltdown, and understandably so, y'all. I mean, she was worked. She was worked like crazy.
I have such a hard time even gauging that. I mean, like, from the outside, I can't disagree with what's being said here. I mean, she looked like she was off the rails, like she was really going crazy.
Yeah.
But compared to, like, let's take Whitney Houston, for example,
right.
In that famous 2020 interview, I think it was 2020, where she was sweating bullets, saying crack is whack.
Crack is whack.
Crack is whack. There wasn't an attempt at that point. And right. I think that, the other thing is, this is like, I mean, Whitney, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but these conservatorships can be weaponized, especially in the elderly community. I think that's why this is like a strange conversation, because she's young and whatnot, but this is like how people take advantage of people's money as they get older all the time. And once you sign that conservatorship, it's hard to get out of it.
It's blood. Yeah, it's definitely blood. Now, do we know, and it's really none of our business, but does she have a diagnosis? Is she bipolar, schizophrenic? Do we know?
I think we've heard all things, and I think
Okay.
what we've heard most commonly is bipolar. And you hear that a lot. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that are diagnosed. There are a lot of people that are undiagnosed. But we're looking at a system here that it confers financial benefit on people that have control over whether or not the arrangement continues. So if you look at the flow of money here, you see it on every side of this. Even Sam Ingham, her lawyer, court-appointed attorney, he is court-appointed, but he still does get money from this. He derives income from her staying into the conservatorship. So, because if her conservatorship is ended, then so does his representation of her. So,
Oh, gotcha. So how does the court not then admit that there's a conflict of interest with the very man who is taking over her finances happens to be her manager? Like, why doesn't the court look at that and go, you know what, we might need a third party? Like, how has not anybody looked at that and thought that was out of balance?
And that's why you see so many different parties involved, because Bessemer Trust is involved, and that is literally what Bessemer Trust does. I mean, they run a trust, and they are involved in these types of cases. So that's what you see, that they're involved, and then the dad is over her. The dad's over her finances. Jody Montgomery is the one over her person, but every single one of them are gaining monetarily from this. Even the person that is supposed to be independent of the conservatorship and supposed to be on her side, Sam Ingham, who, she didn't get to choose him. That's he's also gaining money from it. So every single person, I guess the only person really in this that isn't gaining money one way or the other is the judge. Because
that we know of.
Well, that we know of. I mean,
there's something about this that is so crazy.
Look, here's the thing. The one part of this conversation that I won't entertain is the illusion that the criminal justice system isn't always ultimately a financial conversation at the end of the day. There are plenty of people that have had their freedoms much more bluntly taken away from them simply because they took plea deals that were incentivized by the fact that the courts couldn't afford to give them a fair trial. So now they're never going to say that to this person, but if you're sitting in the hot seat, you take this plea deal, it benefits the court for you to take the plea deal to go to prison. So I think we're having a larger conversation about freedom in general with someone like Britney Spears, because I think it's striking a chord in that, for me, that she was a formative person, in my life, or came along at a formative time in my life, and opened up conversations about sexuality and controversy and religion even, and virtue, and then I mean, I think the Hulu documentary did a pretty okay job of explaining how her image was completely deteriorated after a certain amount of time, and I love the part where they get into how Justin Timberlake got off scot-free with just a bunch of crap. That's a whole other Oprah.
Right.
I like that. That was great, because he's like microwave Michael Jackson anyway. So I don't care, whatever. But
oh my God.
I think the important part to talk about here is, there is always a vested interest in making sure vulnerable people, inconvenient people, are put away. Shoved out of society. It's a good thing on some level that this is happening, because of what you're saying, Whitney, is that it shows you can't even say conflict of interest. I don't even know what this qualifies as. This is
it's beyond that.
This is a nightmare. And if someone like Britney Spears can't get out of this, what hope does, a little lady named Pearl in Boca Raton have?
Right.
This is happening for much less money all over the country right now.
It's the movie I Care a Lot. Did you see that? The Diane Wiest I Care a Lot movie?
Yeah.
I mean, the players are different,
Right.
but it's the fact that somebody is against their will having to perform. And that's when Britney Spears said it was like she's a sex slave. It is sex trafficking. What happens to her, and that being held against her will, people watching her 24/7 has absolutely no privacy. They're the least decent people in the planet to sit there and want to watch her as she gets undressed, as she takes her handful of pills that she says, she doesn't even know what she needs. Because remember, her other doctor died. The one who died was the one a couple of years ago. But again, it's not anyone like, if you and I, Caitlin, want to go to a doctor, we choose our doctor. We choose somebody we have a relationship
Well, we choose a doctor that our insurance company allows us to.
That's right. Within that list, we choose somebody. But with her, none of it. It's almost The Handmaid's Tale for washed up rock stars.
Not almost.
Pop stars.
Not almost.
Okay.
100%. She is living that. And the other thing is, I just think that this is a good time to have a larger conversation about who decides the kind of healthcare we get in general. And also, I'll say this too. We have been talking about hiding away inconvenient women in literature and in television for a very long time. It's just presented to us as this anomalous thing that happens, that women get locked away in an attic for The Woman in White is a beautiful novel about this exact thing that happens to somebody. So anyway, I'm getting way too nerdy for this conversation, but I'm annoyed at the larger conversation being how, where, when. It's like, the answer is always. It has always been this way. It's just
but
not.
Why? Well, go ahead, Whitney.
Oh, I wasn't trying
Okay.
to, I was going to talk, just you go ahead and then I'll come after you.
Well, I was just thinking that why then, if we have a system that's involved, that we have Health and Human Services or DHS or whatever you call that why isn't anyone from that part of the government, she's in California, coming in, maybe doing welfare checks? Like, why is she so protected from
It's
herself?
funny you say that, because that's what I was thinking about and I have thought about that with this, is that you have, when there's a child, you hear about them getting appointed a guardian ad litem that is appointed by the court. They're paid by the government, by the state government, and they don't have a vested interest either way, like where the child goes or what they get in return. And so that's why I think you have a big difference here, is that every side there is a vested interest on the conservatorship remaining in place on every side. So I think that this is going to evolve into a bigger conversation around changing the system, because the system in itself is just so flawed. There should be something similar to a guardian ad litem, and there might be in some states, but there should be something similar to that in this case that's not financially paid at all. That's paid no matter what happens.
Then you get into the conversation about state funded employees injecting themselves into situations where they're in levels of wealth that they can't comprehend. And I mean, Britney Spears has lived her whole life worrying what the bellhop is being bribed. I mean, every single person that she encounters is, it's really funny, because Lisa, you and I met working on a project about a family member that tried to obtain conservatorship over her sister. It wasn't that hard.
Right.
And once it happens, that's it. And I've watched it in my own family. I've watched caregivers that are hired by outside, you would think a third party completely support, but we're not paying these people very much money. I mean, that's the reality for what they're doing, for taking care of our loved ones, wiping their butt, cleaning up their poop, and they're not being paid the kind of money that's going to stand in the face of some creep that is clearly around Britney Spears. that can't be swayed. I mean, is that too cynical? I don't know.
No, you're being a realist about this because you've seen it, and if you've seen it on both sides
for $1,500. Like, I'm not like, not like the kind of money that Jamie Spears is living off of, and
millions.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But you're right. I mean, Whitney, what do we do? Like, where do we start?
Well, did you see where Matt Gaetz, the representative from Florida, is asking Brittany to come testify before Congress? If they let her, they let her off her leash long enough, they probably won't let her.
Oh, it'd be great to have Matt Gaetz talk about other women that would love to testify in Congress too. That'd be great.
While you're up.
How ironic.
Who else you got?
Matt, since you're open to this process, there's a couple other ladies I'd like to hear from. I wonder why he's doing that.
Let's start the conversation, though. I don't know what congressional support would help her because there's a court system in California that obviously has the final say in this. So, Whitney, then in these cases, and Caitlin kind of alluded to it, is it a blood oath once you have the conservatorship? And probably no one told Brittany that in the beginning, that, sister, you're in it for the long haul if you sign away on this. But are they hard to reverse, Whitney?
I think we're seeing that for sure. I mean, different states have different laws, and California, you would definitely think they have more stringent regulations in place for this, but they obviously don't. And I don't know, when you say sign off in the beginning, I don't know that. I mean, I think that's the whole idea, that she never has signed off on this. I mean, she probably was at a place where she needed care, in 2008, and she. It probably was, I think it was even during her time that she was admitted to the hospital on a 5150. And so when you have that situation, you don't sign off on that. That's just because you're a danger to yourself. And so
it's a court order. So in the beginning, it was a court order.
Yeah. And so her dad filed the original petition. I don't know if it was while she was under the 5150 hold, but he filed it within that time frame. Probably. And so, basically the judge hears the evidence about that, and then if they order it, until they order that it go away, it's going to remain in place. And so that's what we saw, I think, yesterday. And I believe the pleadings are sealed because I wasn't able to find them, but I did read that her attorney Sam Ingham did petition to terminate.
What's he in a hurry about now? I mean, this has been going on for 13 years or however long it's been.
Well, I think too, you're seeing, you saw also yesterday that the judge denied the request to remove her dad, Jamie Spears, from the whole deal. The judge denied it, but that was from an old order. That was from an old request. So that was a request that was back in November. So you're not seeing something new. I think people might have seen that headline and thought, oh goodness, the judge already ruled. That's just from an old filing that took place in November.
Okay, this is the most important point that's being made right now, because the way the news that's breaking, the way it looks, is that this ruling is connected to what we saw, and my understanding is that's not true.
It's not. That is not true. That there was a pleading filed in November, and in that pleading, that is where she sought to have her dad removed.
In November? We're just now talking about this?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why it wasn't ruled on up until yesterday, but the one thing that I thought was that it's possible that the judge now that the judge has the petition to terminate the conservatorship, they need to get all these other requests out of the way. So we need to answer these pleadings. We need to get an order in saying we're denying this so that she can grant termination of the entire thing. That's my wishful thinking. There's a hearing on the 14th. And, at that time, I think we won't, because I don't know that it'll be public, but I think that's when each side will present evidence. And it looks like there will be 3 sides, because you're going to have Jamie Spears, Jody Montgomery, and then Brittany and her attorneys. So
where has Jamie Spears been in any press?
Well,
have we heard from him?
He lives in Louisiana and he is running his catering business. It's called something crazy. I don't remember what it is.
Oh, he finally got a job?
Well, I'm sure
she's her job. Yeah, she's
right.
The job. Yeah, ish.
But
Caitlin's
he
like
lives
ish, yeah.
in an RV. He lives in an RV and he has his catering truck. So things aren't great for him. Maybe, when she stopped performing, I watched her Vegas show in person right before she stopped.
So jealous.
So good.
Yeah, she's the best.
But even from that show, I knew, and this was in, 2018 maybe. It was right before the last one that she stopped. From that show, I knew, I could see it on her face. Her voice was different. She was completely going through the motions. Going through the motions because she was essentially being made to work. And I was reading an article the other day about how her dad gets was getting a percentage of income from her touring, merch. Everything. I think it was like something around 2%. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. It might have been 2.9. I don't know. But anyway, if she's the Vegas tour, that was tons of money. 2% of that is a good living. So
she's an indentured servant. That's what she's just done. Does she get any income? Do they allow her to have an allowance?
Hey, Kristen.
Does anyone know?
I think she does.
I'm sure she does. I don't think I think the reason why this setup is so insidious is that from the outside, this is again my point about bringing in like a social worker. It's not going to work because you have them coming in and it's like, oh, well, she's got all the money that she needs. She's fine. Right. It's not a money thing. That's what she said in her statement.
Right.
She's not focusing on the financial aspect of this. To her, that's something separate. It's the actual agency over her body and her time, right, that has been taken from her in this situation. And that's not right.
Now, what about people like Microwave Michael Jackson, all of her old buddies? Have they come forward? I know the sister Jamie Lynn all of a sudden got mouthy last week and spoke, and I don't know if that was under duress that she didn't speak. There's some family dynamic. Christmas is really difficult at their house.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead
I don't
and
know.
say that.
I think it's a little hard to expect family members to be able to get in because it's so that would be tough.
That's right.
They really should just take out, just say stuff. Like somebody needs to speak up now.
Well, what I wonder is, what about her mother? Her mother's not under any regulation or requirement to.
Hadn't heard a thing from her. Are they still married?
No, they're not married.
Okay. I couldn't remember. So, Caitlin, have you seen any media from the mom?
No. I'm sorry. I just think her whole family is benefiting from this on some level.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the mother is somewhere too. But really, like her old boyfriends, old friends, where are they on this?
They're in the industry just like she is. They can't just come out and, they can, but they won't. So, they're all leaving her out to dry. Actually, I think I saw Christina Aguilera came out and said something. A couple other female pop star people have come out and said some stuff.
Okay, good.
Today and yesterday.
Because she feels so isolated, guys. Besides having a mental illness, and she's sober. I know she walked through sobriety. I don't know where she is.
Who doesn't have a mental illness right now?
Exactly.
I'm so sick about that.
You're right. You're right. You're exactly right.
Come on. I could. It just drives me crazy. Just because somebody has an episode doesn't mean that they're an unfit parent. And right. That I think ultimately the crux of this, the reason why they got her to do all of this is they dangled their kids in front of her kids in front of her and access to her children. So that happens to women all the time. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it does.
I don't know if you guys have heard this, but we are seeing this kind of slowly fall apart under the public's view, like the scrutiny. But I don't know who's read it, but Bessemer Trust did file to leave. They resigned from the conservatorship.
Wow. Ooh, that would be great.
And what that means is they're trying to save face. I mean, they don't want to be the ones that are involved in this when it does get terminated. But man, they did that yesterday. They filed to resign. So I think you're going to see all of these things kind of come into play and start unraveling.
But doesn't that mean someone else could then assume their position? I mean, wouldn't Jamie Smuckers then have somebody else?
I'd love to know the legal firm that worked so hard to get Bill Cosby out of prison. Love
Seriously, that's who I want representing me.
Them up. No, I'm just saying, let's start having because at the end of the day, it's like they have the money to pay these legal firms to look at these loopholes. I mean, that's what Cosby did. I know we're not talking about Britney Spears, but it was so staggering to have both of these news stories blow up on the same day yesterday, and to just consider
it was insane.
But I mean, look, if you want to have a conversation about the leniency shown towards sexual predators in this in our legal system, that's literally a whole other podcast. So there's that. But we are seeing there is a bleed into Britney Spears' story here, because we are talking about a woman's word against her father's. Ultimately, that's what we're talking about. Yep. And a system that is clearly built to favor good old boy Jamie. So that's what we're seeing. It's crazy. But I don't know. It's not surprising. I'm more annoyed at people's shock than I am almost anything else.
Yeah.
Like welcome to Earth, guys. I'm sorry, but
yeah, to expect it. If it didn't happen, we should be shocked, is what you're saying. If it didn't turn out this way.
I keep going back to elder abuse. That's a whole industry. What do you think it is? I mean, what do you think that we're like? I mean, yeah, there are physically abusive people, but it's mostly financial abuse.
Right. That's exactly what it is. Back to the dollar. Okay. Yeah. The Bill Cosby case, Whitney, did you read any of that to see the loopholes that were used to allow a predator to walk free?
Fill me in, because I've been so obsessed with getting Britney with Frank.
Well, it was
go ahead.
It was two legalese for me, but it was something, and Caitlin, you may know that maybe he was in the trial, like someone wore a red shoe and should have worn a purple one. I mean, it was something so obscure that they said, okay. And when I first saw the alerts to all of us when we got our phone, I thought there was maybe, I really, in my mind, I couldn't compute. My son was coming from Dallas, and he came in, he goes, no, Mom, he walked out of there a free man. I said, he's exonerated? I mean, that was it?
He's not exonerated.
I don't know what the loophole is, but do you know the number of women that have come forward?
It's 60,
60
right?
60 women. 60 women.
And that's not enough? And he got to walk free. So is he still, he's a convicted felon that is free for now? I mean, are they going to try him then on these other, I don't know how many women testified in the case. The first woman was a lady in Canada who blew it all up, and that was like 2005 or 6.
I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I can't imagine. That's a lot of people being told that their story didn't matter.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. And
we're seeing that with Britney. That's right. Why it's the same thing. It's the same conversation. I'm here to tell you that I'm not in control of my own body. I'm not allowed to have my own babies, which is so ironic considering her Bible Belt fan base. I'm sorry. My God.
She has an IUD that she doesn't want. I mean, did they strap her down, hog tie her?
Well, she probably got the IUD, but now she's not allowed to take it out. I think it's just like every other, I mean, I'm only speculating here, but my guess is that it's just like every other thing that's going on with her. It's that she does something in the moment because she was told that it makes sense, and then she can't change it. She can't make decisions for herself.
Okay, can you hear her when she speaks? The people-pleasing aspect she has in everything she says about her father, how codependent she is. It really killed her to do that last week because she's afraid her daddy's gonna be mad at her.
Yes.
That's some crazy stuff right there.
She says she does everything and she does a good job. She's not only good, she's great. And I try to be pretty.
And I try to be pretty.
When she said she was trying to be pretty, my heart, it just broke my heart. I mean, Q Waterworks right there.
I know.
You could hear that little girl saying, just tell me I'm good.
And that's all she wanted.
Yeah,
And I
but
think
you know,
that's when people say, well, why hasn't she wanted to end it? Why hasn't she wanted to end it? She didn't want to make anybody mad, especially not her dad. She didn't want to make dad
that's
mad.
why women drop dead of heart attacks on Thanksgiving. That's the whole
Right.
thing. I keep coming back to this.
On Thanksgiving.
The thing that we need to remember about this is not the specialness of it. It is the normalcy of it.
The
This
norm.
happens all the time. And I'm grateful for Britney Spears to come out and do these things. I want good things for her, but I will fight hard to keep coming back to the fact that we are only hearing about it because she is Britney Spears. You have to be Britney Spears to get out of this situation, to even have hope of getting out of this situation. And that's
Okay. Well, then that's a good segue, Caitlin. Let's wrap it up. How, if somebody's watching right now, because if we're saying this is normal and you're in a dysfunctional relationship with your family members or somebody, or there's elder abuse, what can people do right now to change their future?
That's a Whitney question. I mean, honestly, if it's a legal situation, I'm from my
Yeah.
understanding, is it's hard to get out of. There are so many shades to this, though, that are more relatable. The people pleasing. How do you get out of it? I don't know. What I did, I just listened. I binge listened to Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. That's where I started. I mean, I went to therapy. Like, you know,
Right.
It's staggering how relatable her statements are for so many women in different pieces of that statement. It's overwhelming to put it all together, but again, there are a lot of women in really weird codependent relationships with their dad that are completely connected to money. It's not that, I don't know.
Yeah. She just happens to be the money maker, the breadwinner in this, which is kind of unusual that the child is the one supporting, but it happens. So Whitney, somebody watching right now, listening, because we're uploading this for a podcast as well. If they're in a situation, I mean, who do you turn to? Do you call the police? Do you call DHS? Who do you call? Who do you call that this is happening to you and your family?
That's a good question. And, you know, my answer is it depends. It depends on where you are. Number one, I mean, the state laws are going to be different, you know, for everyone. But I definitely think that you should just try to make sure her voice is heard. If she could have just said something in court, you know, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, she had the opportunity to speak in court. And I'm not shaming her for that, because I think she was terrified. I know she was terrified. So that's the main thing, is just to allow your voice to be heard, whatever way that is. And if you need to take your pen out and draft a petition on a piece of notebook paper and you know, sign your name to it, the judge will at least hear your voice. That's the main thing. She says that she didn't know how to end it, or that it could be ended. I totally believe that. You know, how would you know that? And how would you know how to do it?
Well, I mean, the fact that she was afraid to speak up proves that she's being abused.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that she was led to believe that there was no way out, that's what abusers make you believe. I mean, you think of how many things that she's accomplished in her life. What has been done to her to make her feel like she can't get out of this? I think we're going to be unpacking this narrative for the next 10 years, because eventually no one can stop her from writing a book. I mean, if they don't grant her what she wants, I get the sense, thank God, that she's like not going to stop. But again, I just want to come back to this. She's Britney Spears. She can do that. Simon & Schuster will be stoked. Penguin Press will be ready. TMZ will show up. There's just a lot of other normal looking people that are in these crazy situations that don't have this kind of help. And I hope this case really kind of starts kicking all that stuff in the balls. It's not okay. It's just not okay.
Just not okay. That's just it. It's just not okay. Okay, do we have time to talk about our Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and Erica Girardi, and the fact, talk about legal troubles? I think she's in a bit of a pickle.
Sorry, I have like emotional whiplash, because now I'm in a space where I don't feel sorry for anyone. That was so weird. But it's okay. It happened. It was invisible. No one could see it.
No one saw it.
But damn, yeah. Oh God.
Whitney, do you follow any of that?
Well, I don't watch Real Housewives, but for some reason, I get, you know, I see that, you know, this is sad, but my main news source is Instagram these days. And so it'll come through the Explore page, and I can just see commentary on it. Yeah, gossip. I just read the gossip, but that's just, it's a very interesting case because he did the ultimate no. Now she's playing. He spent his client's money, which for a lawyer, that's the ultimate no.
On her, and spent it on her. She doesn't have her $40,000 a month glam team. And have you seen the picture of her, Caitlin, of pumping the gas there in Beverly Hills? She looks like a haint. She looks horrible, like the rest of us do most of the time.
Like a normal person
Right.
now. These people all look embalmed, like they're marionette weird. I mean, all these poor. I was just thinking about these housewives today. Like, they look like they're standing in front of a jet engine. But why?
hair is blown back, lips are blown up.
Some of them kind of look like blow up dolls. I don't understand what's going on with these people emotionally. But that whole storyline is pure Schadenfreude. I don't feel sorry for anyone in that situation. I don't feel sorry for people that got in business with that man. I mean,
but I thought he was a legitimate lawyer because of his past cases. You know, he got famous with, I can't remember.
That's interesting.
One of the big ones.
He's a lawyer in Los Angeles, right?
Oh, right. Got it. Okay.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah. That emotional whiplash has you thinking too much now.
It's just like one of these things where it was like Luann got pulled over. I was like, well, maybe that's the moment she needed. I don't know. She didn't hurt anybody. And with what's her face's husband, it's like.
But was she complicit though? Did she know?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Then we have criminals in both husband and wife, and now that they're busted up, I don't know how I'm going to go on, but I'm dying to see what happens. So
maybe this is like the other end of the spectrum in the universe, where now it's just this funny thing where they can't technically prove that she was in on it because he was the one. It's not like she could take the money, so all she has to do is be like, yeah, I love this person. This guy did my hair, and here's my car. I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't know. We'll never know.
I'm really going to miss all those performances she had. Oh, I really did. I guess she never really performed except for on the show because I don't think she was really any kind of star except for in her own mind and his.
God, but that was my favorite thing about Luann is how much that's what I love about her, is how much money can't buy a class.
Money can't buy. Oh, painful.
The best, because she's so happy.
She was so happy.
It's like a cruise singer. It's fabulous.
Yes.
Countess audience.
Right, the Countess had one song, one hit wonder. She was the Vanilla Ice of her Beverly Hills or New York era.
I think Luann's really pretty though. I just want to love her. I feel like she's the one that looks the least.
I do too, but I think Erica Jane's also. Maybe it's because Erica Jane has been blown up and done. I don't know what Erica Jane really looks like. Luann does look kind of normal.
Yeah, she looks like a normal gorgeous person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, right. Rather than a whatever that is, artificial intelligence.
Almost. Yeah, the simulated.
Yes. Yeah, it's not even real. Not even.
A lot of assistance, whatever. No. Do what you need to do. I'm not in that department at all.
Same, girl. You do you. Okay, you guys are great. We wrapped it up in 40 minutes. We solved the problems of the world while the rest of America is icing their beer for 4th of July. We're here with our hashtag Free Britney. We did it. Thanks, everybody. We're going to sign off now. Be listening. I'll drop this episode Sunday. For those of you who want to hear about independence, we will teach it to you in the Lisa Fisher Said bonus podcast episode.
Yay.